We're going to get right into the comments, guys, and then I got to scream out of here. So we don't need additional print. We need them to print more on demand. Thoughts on print on demand? Is that the future in any way? One thing I thought of is, what about serialized print on demand? In your head, tell me why it's never going to happen.
Where do you print it?
Yeah, it's not cost effective.
I just don't see where. Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool idea, but once you go into full color, printing is expensive, so you need to have a reasonable number hit.
I think the idea is to completely minimize, not have any stock sitting around on any shelf ever, right? It's a digital file, and if somebody wants a physical book, you print it out and you ship it to them. It's not a theory, it's a reality. It's happening today. I don't know price point and where the rubber meets the road for comics quality printing. I'm not sure about.
The quality is not there because it's still print on demand is still usually black and white books. I don't think you're going to get the 4-color process printing stuff.
It's gotten a lot better in the last few years, I will say. Kablam has indieplanet.com that is all print on demand, single issue comics. And granted, the quality of the work itself is hit and miss. You have a lot of people who are, rookie creators, but you've also got a handful of established people who have put stuff on there. I don't know why, but Roger Langridge has a few books on there, and I ordered the print on demand versions and compared them to the direct market original printings, and they're pretty similar. They are black and white interiors, but the paper quality is a lot better than a decade ago, and the print quality is a lot better. Nat Girdler, who does About Comics, he has been doing it through Amazon. Rick Veitch of Swamp Thing fame has too, and their quality is actually fantastic for print on demand. So I think it really depends on the knowledge of the person who's doing that side of the business.
I don't think you'll ever get the prices down though to the levels that you got at when you're doing volume.
Never say never, Brian. But yeah, I think that's probably the main sticking point right now. Is they're quite expensive for a full color, full length GN. It's going to be way more than you would get in a gang printing type scenario.
That's also something you want to be really careful about, because the only way you get it down to be cheap enough is that the actual machine is cheap enough for people to buy themselves.
Yes.
And then we're gone, people.
Yeah, that's true.
You just download your file, you don't go to your local comic shop, you just press a button and you print out the comics at home.
Right. The end user, you mean, does the printing themselves?
That's the only way it gets cheap enough, right?
They 3D print it. No paper.
Yeah. That could be the end game someday.
They did that with greeting cards years ago, and it never took off. So
All right, so Heroinberg, by the way, who's got some comics. I've got some of Heroinberg's comics right here. We're going to be reviewing in a week or two. I got a mailbag show I've been trying to put together forever. She wants to know, was Black Label kaput? It wasn't varied lineup anyway. It was mostly just Harley Quinn stuff. I agree it was a mixed bag. We don't really know. We talked about that. Guys, any thoughts? What do you think of the future of Black Label?
No, it sells too well.
Yeah.
All the non-Harley stuff sells great. Question.
It's got a long tail.
Fantastic.
Wonder Woman Dead Earth.
Yeah, Wonder Woman Dead Earth.
Okay. Harleen was fantastic. That one surprised me.
Yeah, but I think it needs an editor.
What Black Label means, the meaning of what that label means got a little bit mixed up. I liked it originally when it was sort of like a top shelf premium blend of creators, and now it's become more of a like NC-17 comics, if you will.
That's where they kind of like got my eyebrows raised on that one. Like having Black Label on the Sandman books confused a lot of my readers.
Yeah.
Like this, because they put it like when it was on issue 14, 15. And then like they put it on Strange Adventures. And it's not like, I think what really confused readers is seeing Black Label in print, not on a book that was like seeing it on the standard format versus the Black Label magazine really confused.
Like White Knight, Batman White Knight.
Yeah, dude.
Black. Yeah, that was weird.
Or All-Star Superman, the retroactive labels.
Yeah, that too was weird, man. That was really weird.
Yeah.
So Brandon Schatz previous column, a panelist here and future regular panelist says, Heidi over at the Beat is a great catch-all article. It says that the intent is to actually embolden DC's position in the company, adjusting to where the market is going. He's talking about the pivot, the bookstore pivot, right? So guys, check that out. By the way, the Beat, you may not have noticed, is now an official sponsor of Comic Book News, and you'll be able to see our advertising over on Heidi's website and her advertising here on this website. Isn't that fun? Guys, more thoughts? Any more thoughts on this, or did we cover that topic well enough? Any other thoughts on this?
I actually got to go. I'm sorry. I got to get a live sale on CBSN.
Sell those books.
Good luck. See you guys. It was a pleasure. Good night.
Right, see you, man.
Yeah, Timmy.
Love that guy.
Guys, I read that Beat article earlier, and it is very thorough, and it is well worth everyone watching this to go back and read, I would say.
And it's linked in the comments, so it's somebody linked it in the comments too.
Okay, killer. That's why they need to sell off DC Comics. It doesn't fit into their profit portfolio. I guess they're talking about what, Warner or AT&T. I think that is as viable a scenario as any. I think you honestly could see them. I could see Disney making a bid for DC Comics, like for the IP property. It would be a lot of money, but frankly, I think they've got it. I think this is a realistic scenario.
Well, they had it pre-COVID. I don't know if they still have it.
It wouldn't surprise me if they partnered with someone the way Marvel has with IDW, not just to do, the superhero monthly books that are aimed at a slightly different audience, but also, the licensed collections and the artist editions and whatnot. Yeah. DC already does that with graffiti on the original art books, but I could see them partnering like with Dark Horse. I mean, DC and Dark Horse go back a long ways as far as partnering on projects. I was actually the assistant editor on the DC Dark Horse stuff for about a year on the Dark Horse side. And I think that that would be, that was one of your suggestions, I think, earlier, Dan. I think that is a realistic possibility.
Okay, let's see. We've still got more comments here. Let's keep going through the comments. AT&T, they're not investing any money. Here's that link, by the way. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to post that link to that Beat article, and that should work. We'll see. Maybe it won't. Hey, Brian, post the link. Hey, this is coming up. Here's a comment. This is a rare thing on Comic News. Here's a comment I think nobody will be able to argue with. Big time. I love it. Okay. Here's a link to Heidi's article. I'm just going to keep going through the comments here. I lost a lot of the earlier comics. This is the thing when we wait. John Jackson Miller also wrote one of the only books that came out of Marvel's second attempt at the Epic line with Crimson Dynamo. So this was in response to, John Jackson Miller's idea that, man, if DC were to license their characters, he sure would like a crack at them, and I'll bet you there's a lot of other good writers and artists and creators that would too. Let's see. Brian Garcia, thank you for confirming those numbers. Oh, JJ says Crimson Dynamo is in fact a studio situation. I ran my own staff that managed that book. I was the idea behind the short-lived Epic model, and I really think that's more of the model that I think would be successful with licensed characters at DC, like small teams, like a return to the old studio system almost, but just on a book by book basis. Put a killer team on Justice League or some of those characters. I think it's possibly huge. Brian, what's this?
Oh, we were just in the chat. They were talking about the size of DC, and I was just saying it's about 200 to 300 people working for DC Comics. So that's where I got my $120 million back of the napkin math on how much it was costing to run it.
Okay. We've got a lot more stuff here from talking about Tom Scioli. Just went on a hall crawl and got that Scioli goodness. Skipped to the page about him at Marvel immediately, of course. Really looking forward to the Tom Scioli interview next week. I thought that the Fantastic Four book, I looked at it too, and I thought it was really interesting. Those Grand Design books, really interesting format, guys. What do you think about those? How did they sell in your stores? And if you've read them, Mike, have you looked at any of the Grand Design stuff?
I picked them all up, both as single issues and as the treasury-sized collections, and I love it all. My buddy Jeff York, who is the head Marvel researcher he's my main contact, but he's also a freelancer. He did all of the story notes in the backs of each issue. So what I loved about the Grand Design books is that you're not just getting a great comic story, you're getting all the background information that relates to that story. So I thought that was really smart of Marvel to entice people to go and learn more about the characters and explore more by going back to these footnotes and finding them, like the old Marvel indexes do, or even like their inside cover ads do. They say, here's the order you should read these books in, but those only list recent stuff. So I loved them.
Hey, Sequential Geek asked about shipping. How's shipping costs work with ComicHub, Stu? Is that set by the retailers or what? How's that work?
It's at a retail level, yeah.
Is it on a per item basis?
Whatever that retailer's setting up, some of them have set up their own ways to do local, or they're plugging into the various, is it UPS APIs that we're using, or whether it's ever provided. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Oh, Brandon shouts again. He uses ManageComics. It's already helped our shop quite a bit. Highly recommended. There's our ManageComics shill, Brian. I got one of those too, man. I'll bring in ComicHub shills too.
I'm pretty sure that we got Brendan off of some Comic Suite stuff too, and it was terrible.
Speaking of Comic Sour, you're absolutely right about Comic Suite. I've had some good conversation with Diamond Tech person, but I know it's usually the exclusion to the rule. That program itself is a clunky thing. I know my local retailer here, who just shut down, by the way, thanks to COVID, one of them anyway, had nothing but bad things to say about the tech support he paid for and was really unable to access for Comics.
Yeah, I know a lot of retailers have just stopped paying for the tech support for it because it's non-existent.
It just doesn't help. Okay, let's see. Customer, yeah, that's about it, guys. We don't have too much more in the way of your comments. There's a lot of talk about things like ink and zoom and the different imprints and stuff and the different sections. I just think I honestly think that the ink and zoom things were mistakes to begin with. I thought the rebranding of DC actually made a lot of sense in centralizing sort of their marketing efforts. But maybe, I don't know, it might be too little too late for DC. Target has a book section. Barnes & Noble has a book section. Austin has 2 comic book stores. Guys, there's so many options now of places to buy comics that aren't comic book shops. And frankly, you guys are great shops, or the people that are on the show and are watching the show are great shops, but you can go into a really large percentage of comic book shops, and I'll bet you're never going to see a lot of those graphic novels that we were talking about today.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I agree.
So that goes back to something that you talked about way at the beginning when you were talking about the numbers, and I had said this a couple times that the numbers that are coming from Stu stuff are coming from that top 1% of like technically savvy dealers. So these are the guys that are actually doing a great job of, guys and girls who are doing a great job of selling stuff. So I think those are really, really valid numbers because they're people who are actually doing the right things when it comes to the technology aspect of things.
I said to Milton that the sell-through in our stores would be a higher percentage than the sell-through in the average of the cost of the industry.
Sure. Yeah.
Because our clients are, the first thing you do is it just shows you what you should not be stocking. And it's in a graph there, like, man, you've still got a heap of this, you're not making money. So we all, you give the customers the tools to make their orders straight away, and then your numbers become a lot tighter and closer.
Yeah.
It's amazing that just knowing what not to order, what a dramatic effect that has on your bottom line.
Yeah.
It can't be overstated.
We've got an FOC report, and when retailers look at their FOC numbers and they see this is what I've ordered, this is how many people are subscribed to them, that's sometimes a shocking number for them to see. And yeah, it's that's exactly why our guys are going to have higher sell-throughs as well.
What's amazing to me about this is that this isn't something that could have been done 30 years ago or even 20 years ago. You know, I remember when I was a kid seeing those Overstreet Update magazines where you'd have the retailer reports in the front before the price guide. You know, this is before even Wizard. And you just have retailers saying, oh, I sold this particular comic for this much in this condition. And it's like, well, that's great for, you know, a few random data points. But what you guys are doing is so much more concentrated and so much more useful to more people that it just seems like the inevitable evolution of where the market has to go in order to succeed.
Yeah. Guys, man, sorry, Leaf.
The people that are using these tools are really fans and knowledgeable about comics, where a lot of store owners are still just interested in superheroes. And that's a big distinction.
I think that gets into the point that, you know, almost every comic shop is it's one shop owned by one person, not like a chain or anything like Timmy has. So you're going to have, you know, a million shops with a million different ways of running their business. And they may not have another person that works with them to bounce ideas off of with a different perspective to say, hey, maybe this would work a little better, or maybe we should try things this way. But by having the software that can introduce, you know, an outside level of factual data into the mix, I think that's going to benefit everyone. I think it's you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. I think this is one of those situations.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Stu, go ahead, please.
That was always Diamond's attitude to ComicHub was, you know, if you do well, then your stores are going to be better clients for us.
Yeah, I think Diamond really, in Diamond's defense, I think they realized a long time ago they were probably better served by encouraging an ecosystem of multiple tools and not being not pursuing that golden handcuff strategy to their credit in that way. Guys, I've kept you here long enough. This has been a really long and interesting conversation, but I got to wrap this thing up. I want to thank you very much. I'm probably not going to have too much time. If you want to stick around, we can chat a little bit, but if you got to go, you got to go, because I know I got to get out of here too. So anyway, I'm going to bring you guys out of here. Stu, thanks for coming. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Good chatting to you all.
Brian, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Leaf, buddy, always a pleasure. Talk to you next time. Thanks for your input. Mike, thank you, pal. Always a pleasure to have you. You'll be back.
Thanks for having me.
You'll be back again and again and again. Thanks, Mike. See you soon.
Okay.
All right, folks. That's it, man. Still 54 people watching. That's a pretty good number for a stream like this, because we're not talking about, I don't know, X-Men or Superman or whatever. We're talking about the realities of the comic book business. Okay, we're not talking about the latest social uproar or the latest Twitter war or the latest he said, she said, this and that. Honestly, I'm just sick of that stuff. There'll be more talk about comics culture and all the things that are rocking our world in this industry and stuff like that. That's still something that I care about and I think is worth talking about. I've had a lot of personal problems going on, not problems, personal issues in my life in the last year, but who hasn't in 2020, right? Personally, I've had a lot of just death in my life and family in very recent weeks, in the past couple of days even. Meanwhile, I'm getting peppered with things telling me, Dan, you're a coward for not talking to so-and-so, or Dan, you're just a shill. You're enabling the most evil, like just the level of rhetoric, people, please, let's just calm it down a notch. I really don't care. I'm just going to say it one more time. If you got comics that you want to show me and you want to just talk about comics and leave all the garbage behind, please do reach out to me, man, because I want to talk to you. I want to talk to everybody about really cool and interesting comics. I just want to get away from the garbage and get into more fun. I promise, we're going to have some new, very fun types of programming coming to this channel in the not too distant future. I'm going to have an announcement about that really soon. In the meantime, I want to thank everybody, and I mean each and every one of you who watches and subscribe to this channel. Those of you who click that little bell, you get notifications. And hey, if you think about clicking that join button, What happens when you click that? Well, you're going to see multiple ways to give me money. And that money translates into ways that you can see your name on the screen when you watch comic book news. And one of those ways is in the credits. So I'm going to roll the end credits now. And, you know, people don't always read the credits, but on comic book news, it's worth sticking around because we've got post-credit cameos, just like any good superhero movie. So check them out. Thanks for watching. See you next time.